Okay, well, thanks for everybody for turning up. And again, hopefully the technical issues that might be an issue hopefully don't get too much in the way. But again, for those who are listening to this as a recording, if you've encountered some technical problems on the night, then again, I'm not too sure what's occurred, but hopefully the recording is going to be useful. And also, look, as I always say through my Collaborate sessions, always feel free to ask questions. The Collaborate session is not the be-all and the end-all. It is just one method to actually provide information. So, and after the session, make sure to, if you've got any questions, post them up on the discussion board, and so we can discuss obviously a bit more detail. Anyway, let's go to the next slide. Actually, just one quick question I will ask. Of the 5 people that are here, how many, is this the first time, is anybody, for anybody, is this the first time you've done a Collaborate session, or you've all got experience with a Collaborate session? Okay, thanks Nathan. Okay. But the only reason I asked, that's good, but the only reason I asked that is because, look, during the session, the hand function, what I like to do is to just hit the hand function and your number will come up. Look, through the session, as I go through whatever point, feel free to hit the that hand function. Yep, just to get a sit. And then I can either hand the microphone over to you to discuss, in more detail the issue under recovering, or if you don't have a microphone, you can just type it in. But what's a good use of the hand function is to actually stop me, and so we can all sort of focus more on that particular issue. So again, so as you go through all this, if I'm making a point, jump in. Don't, if you want more clarification, more information, hit the hand function so we can go into more specific detail. So again, that's the main reason I asked that question about the experience. So anyway, so I'll go into detail about the assessment overview. So the whole purpose of this assignment is to look at an existing e-commerce business, or it might use a new business that you've created. But the idea is to be able to look at the issue that the organisation faces and try to create an innovation or identify an innovation. And the way we're going to do this is via a rich picture. And I suppose, look, the simple way to look at a rich picture is that it's a method of analysis, and it's a great tool to use to provide a simple overview of what the issues are you're analysing, and allows you to, I suppose, use again words, pictures, and arrows to identify sort of processes. In a way, it's like how I sort of make the comparison. It's a bit like a high-level brainstorming exercise from the point of view of, imagine 3 or 4 people standing in front of a whiteboard. And instead of just putting up a list of words, including words, you're putting up and identifying a process. You're drawing the pictures that represent, key functions within the organisation or key staff, what their concerns are. And we'll have a look at some examples further down the slides to go into a bit more detail. But again, it provides a high-level analysis of the actual issues, and that's why it's a good sort of method to actually analyse issues and then also to identify improvements. So again, that's the whole purpose of a rich picture. Look, the key elements of the assignment is that there is a 500-word limit, but ideally, as we sort of said there, minimal words. 500 words means you don't have to have 500 words. It's essentially, if you've got 500 words on one of these rich pictures, you probably use too much text, I would say. The key to actually the rich picture, and again, you see these in examples, is being able to sort of be able to highlight the point with pictures and the processes. So Nathan, yep, I'll hand the microphone over to you. No, Nathan, no, it's the whole rich picture itself. So it's not each, and again, look, I'll be surprised if any rich picture actually has 500 words. It shouldn't, you shouldn't need that volume of words to describe what the issue is. And again, if you're using 500 words, I would say you're probably using potentially too much. But again, when we look through the examples further down, you'll see what I mean in relation to that. And also the example that's provided in the actual discussion board, or in Blackboard as well, sort of highlights that as well. So again, so 500 words is the maximum, but I'd be surprised if any people ever come close to that. And again, remember this is a group exercise, and so it's the poster that you're preparing which represents your joint effort. So again, what I said earlier, you could choose an existing business or create a new e-commerce business. Important that on the poster itself, you include your names, so we're clear who obviously submitted the work, and also it should be on an A3 size. So, and again, that's just a layout from the point of view of having being able to lay out the information in a it's not crammed on the actual page itself. So they're the main elements of the actual rich picture. How's that going so far? So good. Any questions with that so far? Yeah. Okay. Good. Ready? Don't forget, jump in, raise your hand if you need to. I'll go to the next slide. So a little bit of what I said already. So what is a rich picture? It's a representation of a situation. It's part of an analysis, and it's a catwell. I'm going to go into catwell in the next slide. Probably the main point, which is important, is the representation of a situation. So whatever company you're going to use, or organisation you use, you don't need to represent the whole organisation. It's not relevant if it's not part of your analysis. So you only need to represent the particular part under analysis, which is the representation of a situation. So it might just be doing with one function. And again, when we go through the examples, you'll see what I mean by that one. So again, a common mistake made with rich pictures is a whole organisation is actually structured out and shows how everything links together. That's not what we want. That doesn't serve the purpose at all. You need to look at what the issue is that's been analysed, that you've identified as a problem area. So map that out. Why is it a problem area? And then propose within the rich picture then the innovation to address the problem area. And that's the whole purpose of the rich picture. So if you're providing a lot of information that simply is not part of the innovation or not part of the problem, then it shouldn't be included. That's probably, it's an important point, because again, a lot of people will submit a rich picture that just gives an overview of the company's or corporate structure of the organisation. It'll show the accounting department, the marketing department, where IT is, human resources, and that's not the issue. So that's what we don't need to see. So everybody's okay with that? So catwell. This catwell term comes up a lot, and obviously it's the key part of the actual assignment and actually of the picture itself. And the catwell just stands for the certain words that I'll go through. So the C is relate to customers, and it's again it identifies the actual customers or clients who are the stakeholders for the actual organisation. And again, when we go through examples, we'll be able to see examples of that. A is for the actors, so these are the people involved in the implementation of the changes in the system. So again, they're the actual, it might be the staff, it might be the relevant sections, so it clearly is the people involved with the actual process itself. The T, it stands for the transformation process, so these are the changes that the system or processes bring about. So this is where the innovation starts to actually evolve and is represented by the transformation stages. The W stands for the worldview, so this is the big picture of the wider impact of the transformed system and process. So really, it's just highlighting kind of what I was saying earlier about just how it fits in, the situation, how it fits in with the parameters of the organisation. So, you clearly identify that it's not the whole organisation, but it's one element of the organisation that's under analysis. So it highlights how it fits in with the world view. The owners, which is O, so these are the decision makers who have the authority to make the changes, stop the project or decide on whether to go ahead with the change. So again, you need to identify who they might be, and that could be managers, it could be again the owners of the actual organisation, could be key staff. So again, it's just important to identify how they're going to be involved with the actual process itself. And again, some of this will make probably better sense as we go through some of the examples. E stands for the environmental or external issues. So these are the external constraints and limitations affecting the success of the solution. So, again, this is how the organisation fits in with the other external stakeholders, for want of a better word, in relation to the actual organisation. And again, the rich picture needs to identify who they are, what role they actually play in the actual analysis and also with the innovation that's being proposed. And also, look, for more information on the Catwell, if you go to the assignment brief itself, there's a link on the first page that actually provides with a good overview of the Catwell in some more detail than what I've described. So, again, when you get the chance and you're not too sure about what that meant or my explanation, again, have a look at the actual the link, and it'll provide a good overview of the key elements. And again, ask questions as well. Nathan, it's in the assignment brief itself. So if you go to the assignment brief, and about halfway down on the first page, or about 3/4, probably 80% down on the first page, it's got, just above where it says posted requirements, it's got a link that's to the Creating Minds. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I was going to cut and paste that in. Exactly. Thanks, Bart, for that. Yeah. So again, and that provides a good, probably a better explanation to this slide and goes a bit more detail. So that can help as well. And a good little checklist to sort of make sure have you cover those relevant points. So far, so good. Everybody got it right so far? Comfortable with everything? Any questions? Thanks for that. I haven't lost anybody. Nobody's out there thinking what the hell this is all about. Okay, I'll go to the next one, which is the content of a rich picture. So again, there's a little bit more detail in relation to what I've sort of explained. So the rich picture depicts the interaction between the actors. So when we refer to the actors, we relate to the key people. It might be sections of the organisation that the rich picture relates to. So you might, for instance, if you're talking about departments, it might be in the accounting department. How that reacts to the marketing department, for argument's sake. But again, you're starting to highlight individual elements, which again could be the departments, could be individual staff. It might be the sales manager. It might be an internet, a web designer, whatever the person or whatever the role might be. The next point is the interactions between applicants and applications. So this again elaborates in the first point from the point of view of what processes are involved and how does that relate to the actual transaction or the process that's being investigated. So this could be again how a credit card transaction might take place, or how a delivery order might be processed within an organisation. So again, it's the process of the actual between the actor and the actual system that's being used. And this is what the elements of the process flow is about. The next point, it's highlighting again how everything joins together. So how does the flow occur? So when somebody, using the credit card example, so when somebody makes payment via a credit card, what happens with that one? How does payment goes to the bank, and then the bank receives the money, gets forwarded to the organisation, or might relate to an actual transaction in relation to an online purchase as such. So again, it's just highlighting the process flows. So the environmental factors. So this is sort of how the system interacts with the external entities. It relates to the inputs to the system and outputs to the system. These could be suppliers, resellers, distributors, customers, etc. So again, this gets back to again how the other elements play a role within the actual organisation itself, and particularly in relation to the actual issue that's being investigated. As part of your analysis, then it leads to the actual innovation to actually solve the problem. So hard and soft information. So hard simply relates to actual physical items. So it might be a warehouse, it might be stock, etc. Where soft relates to the intangible items, and this is where things like thoughts, and again you'll see this in the following examples, might be thoughts or might be ideas. And this is again, you're writing down as your, a thought bubble that might have somebody concerned about their job security. And again, we'll see this in the example. So that's an example of soft information. So it's not necessarily it's intangible by its nature. And last point is requirements that will have to be developed. So that's simply addressing the issue innovation. What does need to occur to actually to actually address the actual problem you've identified, and that's the key to that particular last point. So how are we going with that? All good? Not losing anybody? Any questions? You can hear me out there. I haven't been talking to myself for the last 10 minutes. Judy. So again, to go into a bit more detail, this is the elements of the rich picture. So this is a little bit similar to what we've already covered, but goes into a sort of the next sort of layer. And I suppose as you sort of see how these sort of slides are constructed, we sort of started off pretty much at a high level, and so as you go through each of these slides, we're going down into more specific sort of detail. So that sort of helps you sort of refine the ideas. So the first point, the first element looks at the include structure. So include only enough structure to allow you to record the process and concerns. The latter requires that all the people who will use or could conceivably be affected by the introduction of a new system be included. And again, it goes back to my original point about keep the focus on the actual point or the issue under analysis. You don't need to provide the whole overview of the whole organisation, only the area or the elements that are being investigated. And again, keep it at a high level, and you don't need to go into intricate detail. So we don't need to know all the little minor sort of steps associated with the process or the structure you're discussing. Again, keep it at a high level. That's why the purpose of the rich picture. And this is where the use of comments and arrows and pictures sort of make a point. So you don't have to sort of provide all the little nitty-gritty sort of steps that each individual staff member might do within that particular section. It's not relevant. Unless it is relevant, include it, but if it's not relevant, don't include it. So include the process. This again sort of elaborates on what I was saying. Do not attempt to record all the intricacies of the processes. A broad brush approach is usually all that is needed. So again, be general. There's no need to be too specific. And again, when we look at examples, this will probably make a bit more sense. So again, you just got to highlight the key elements, and this is the whole purpose of this whole issue, is that you're highlighting the key elements. You don't need to go into nitty-gritty detail. This is why we sort of make reference to the fact that it is at times a high level. You don't need to see the specifics. What actually happens is that the rich picture is the first stage of analysis process, and where the nitty-gritty sort of detail can come into it is when you do the actual report, which is the next stage and the next assignment. And in practical reality, that's also where you do the business case as well. So, you're keeping this as to identify the key issues, and then you're using the follow-up report to actually go into the nitty-gritty details as much as you need to. So this is why this particular stage of the strategy only needs to be high level. So include concerns. So this is where the caricature the concern in a thought bubble. And again, you'll see this in the examples coming up. A full explanation may be provided in a supplementary document. And again, this is where, again, the follow-up report sort of plays a role in relation to that. So what you're trying to focus on now, under the include the concerns, is that what are the issues that can have an impact? So this can also help to identify where improvements can be made. So again, the example you used before about a person being concerned about the job security, might be a relevant issue. So again, you're using a thought bubble of what that person might be thinking to highlight that particular issue. So again, use the language of the people depicted. This will make the rich picture comprehensive to your informants. And again, this is the whole purpose of the rich picture as well, is that when somebody looks at it, they should be able to understand from their perspective, how it impacts on their role. Because again, a rich picture is an internal, often seen as an internal document or process to look at the internal operations of the organisation. So again, you often can have people involved with the actual functions and the job to actually be involved with the actual development of the rich picture itself. So therefore, represent and use the language that they would actually use so it's fully understood. Again, this is an academic exercise, so some of the nitty-gritty details and terminology may not be as critical, but again, this is a tool that actually is used in industry, and I've used this process many a time in the work environment and not on a professional consultancy basis. Use any pictorial, number 0.5, use any pictorial or textual device that suits your purpose. So again, this is probably an important point as well. There was no correct way of drawing a rich picture. There are as many styles as analysts, and the same analysts will find different styles useful in different situations. And again, we look at examples coming up. You'll see what I mean by that one. And also, if you do a simple search of rich pictures and do a Google search for rich pictures, you'll see so many different examples and so many different styles. So again, there's no specific way. The key issue, keep coming back to, is that you've identified what the processes are, what the issue is that is causing the problem, which is the analysis, and then how you're going to implement an innovation. So what is the innovation to address the issue? So again, that's where the use of the pictures is very helpful. So I'm going to look at some examples now. But so far, how are we going? Any questions on all this? Beauty. Beauty. Okay, well, sounds like everybody's going well. So does that mean everybody's going to produce the perfect rich picture? And again, with these examples coming up, you'll actually see the different styles. And again, this highlights some of the points I've been talking about. So again, here's an example of a rich picture. And straight away you can see the use of the thought bubbles. And this is where we're combining sort of hard information with soft information. And what is particularly good about this particular rich picture, it highlights the role of the, I suppose, external organisations as an external entity. So you can sort of see that the brewery has an issue in relation to what their concerns are. The community, the concerns relate to the actual pub itself, things to do with noise, disturbances and inconvenience. So straight away with this picture, you actually know what the concerns are. So if you're the owner of the pub, your concerns are, or your issues that you're trying to address are clearly identified. So again, with the cops, it said the closing time and drink driving, they've got issues. You've got other pubs which have competition. The customers value for money, quality of facility, image and costs. So straight away, you can look at this. I mean, this is what I mean earlier too about the use of words, why you don't need to use so many words. You can look at this picture and have a clear understanding of what the issues are quite quickly. And that's what's good about this particular rich picture. It's simple. It's using the actual pictures in a simple sort of format. It's not an overly complicated rich picture, but it highlights again the key issues, and I think that's what's particularly good about this particular rich picture. Any questions on that particular one? Just in relation to this particular rich picture, well, what it's doing, what the pub's highlighting, is that one of the issues that actually faces the pub, and this is the whole point with this analysis. So what they've obviously done, using this as an example, the owners of the pub have sat down and said, well, what are the issues that we actually face from the point of view of our facility? And what they've looked at is identified the key external stakeholders, which are, for argument's sake, the community, the cops, the other pubs, the customers, the employee and the landlord, and they said, okay, well, for each one, what are the issues that we need to focus on? So in relation to the community, they've actually identified that the noise and disturbance is, some key issues. So from the point of view of, they might have, live bands playing, for argument's sake, which could be concerning the actual local residents. So again, by identifying that as an issue, they could be addressing that. And also, don't forget too, this could also be from the purpose of a prospective buyer of the actual organisation itself. So you're going to go and buy a pub, well, what are the issues? So, you're going to go and buy a live venue, for argument's sake, so bands are playing, and noise and disturbance is the key issue, then that's a critical point. Same with the competition. If you've got 4 other pubs within the area, for argument's sake, then you need to actually understand and do a competitive analysis in relation to how your pub, and why your pub's going to be any more successful than the other pub, for argument's sake. So again, the customers, the value for money. from the pub's perspective, how do you provide value for money? Is it providing, free, a free drink with the meal, or, you've got a good quality chef that comes in, for argument's sake? So they're the key points for that. Yeah, I agree, Jessica. This one can actually highlight the actual particular innovation. So again, that's why I sort of made reference. It's a good example of one. Yeah, I agree. It's just more of analysis, but it's a good one to actually highlight the external bodies of the actual organisation, and how it impacts on the organisation itself. I mean, to take it the next step, if this was to actually, include the innovation, that would, look at how would I address every issue, and that's what it could be. So you might have the pub, to the customers might, have a quality chef, for argument's sake. So that's an example of a point that might be included within the rich picture itself. But what this has done, this highlights a good example of how to identify quite simply, and this is the beauty of and the reason why we use this particular diagram, and actually it's very simple but very effective, because again, you can look at this and within, straight away, you actually know what the issues are. So yeah, I agree. It is more of an analysis, and that doesn't include an innovation, but again, it does highlight again the roles of the external bodies. Yeah, and as you say, Nathan, again, this is an example of why you don't need the 500 words. I mean, if you have 500 words, and that's fine, but it's, again, when you look at this and look at the other examples, you'll find that it actually gets to the point quite quickly, quite succinctly, and that's the key to it. If you've got lots of words and all over the page, I would question the actual accuracy of your or the veracity of your analysis. So here's another example that has a bit more detail in it. And again, look, the other point to make as well is that these diagrams are hand-drawn, and that's fine. You don't have to have fancy pictures that you've got from some fancy program. As long as your diagrams are clear, they're concise, and they're actually clear what they're all about, and that's fine. So this picture is a good example of somebody who's done a hand-drawn picture and actually highlights the issues. And for instance, look, you can see the concerns. So you can see the. You're going to try and find the pointer that I'm going to use. Yeah. Hang on, bear with me. Yeah, it's really. So hopefully you can see that. So you can see the concerns here. Just as the concern about the job security here. Overman. 1 minute staff, you're bored, and next you can't keep up. Yeah, Jessica. Look, exactly. Look, I agree. Look, a lot of this is going to be done over the internet and over electronic methods. So, but again, what I'm just trying to highlight is the fact of the informality of the actual system itself. I mean, you can do. Look, there are a lot of hand drawing programs out there that you can share. But again, what I'm trying to highlight is the fact you don't need a complex, major program to actually prove or justify your point or do your analysis. So, so that part's fine. And there are programs where you can share collaboratively, hand-drawn issues. And again, what's good about this particular thing? So you can actually see the actual concerns here by the actual relevant staff. It's quite clear the actual processes that are taking place. So you can sort of see the tally cards being used, checking delivery notes, confirmation of delivery, etc. So, again, this highlights the issues. And to make an analysis of this, is that what the concern would be is that this organisation appears to have a lot of manual systems in relation to its delivery and the stock control. And what's occurring is that because of the manual systems, it's causing, peaks and troughs with the flow. So sometimes, and identified by here, sometimes things are really busy, and in other times things are slower. This is why the question's been raised here about are we overmanned, and therefore, job security. So that's sort of highlighting the actual issues in relation to the manual processes. And then the proposed system and solution is suggesting here, we need to, put in place better systems in relation to the actual innovation itself. I mean, again, ideally, with the actual rich picture, you'd like to sort of see how these systems can automate some of these processes. But at least what's happened here is that they've been able to sort of highlight the fact that some systems are going to be used to automate the processes to, again, address the actual issues, so things aren't as uneven throughout the actual, period of time. And this also highlights the other roles and of the other departments within the organisation as well. So you've got the loading bay in relation to the actual deliveries, etc., and unloading of stock and things here. So again, this is where, what I was saying earlier about highlights the other functions and other activities that actually relates to the actual innovation itself. So again, this highlights those particular, I suppose, stakeholders in relation to that particular picture. So how are we going so far with that? I see Bart's typing something in. Yeah, I mean, look, ideally, you don't. What I'm trying to highlight is that if you do a hand drawing submission and it's clearly concise, that's fine. I mean, ideally, the more structured and the more it's laid out and looks neat, the better. But again, something like this, if I saw this being submitted, I'm not going to take marks off for a hand drawn diagram, because it actually is quite clear what's taking place. So again, it's making sure, this is why the criteria is so important in assignment brief. Being able to address the criteria is critical. So again, if I saw this as a submission, this would be perfectly acceptable. So we have had comments in the past about people having to go out there and buy major drawing programs and having to learn different software, and you just don't simply need to do it. It's not a requirement to actually do it. And again, I'm not saying using hand-drawn is a practical way of doing it either, because it is difficult when you're collaborating over the online, what we said earlier. But again, what I'm trying to emphasise is you don't need a complex program to do it. As long as you're clear about the individual steps, the stages, the processes, who the elements of the catwell are for argument's sake, this is what needs to be done. That's not bad. No problems. So how's this so far? Good? Are you getting a sense of, hopefully when you started you weren't too sure, and hopefully by doing this is actually making sense, and hopefully these examples are helping? Yep. I see Lee's typing something. So I'll go to the next slide. That's right, Lee. Yeah. And again, this is the example that is actually in the assessment section as well. So you can have a closer look at this one in more detail if you actually need to. But again, what's good about this particular one here, and what I like about this one, again, you can sort of see the simplicity of the pictures. It's clearly the use of these pictures makes sense in relation to what the deal is, and from the point of view of the sale and no sale. And what's particularly good here, again, is it's using the actual black arrows to identify the process, which is in effect part of the original analysis. Then it's using the actual red arrows to identify the actual need to implement and make the changes. So, largely what this is about is being able to take advantage of, the organisation has an issue about, persons coming in and making sales, but they're not, so that there's no great sort of follow-up, and then there's no, second sales that happen down the track. So part of the innovation they're looking at here and suggesting is that, okay, let's get the actual email campaign and more of a marketing campaign going to actually get greater interaction from the actual customer after they've made the actual sales itself. And this is where got good statistics here to actually highlight the particular points, and then also to highlight the value of actually doing the actual sales, the actual new marketing campaign itself. So again, it's highlighting the current situation, pre-innovation, which is done by, again, the big diagrams here, and then the red has simply been used to actually highlight the innovation itself. So, and that's why it's also important when the rich picture is that you want to, again, the key element is to make sure what is the element that's being, or the issues being analysed, which represents the current situation, but also what is the innovation that's being proposed. So you need to be clear about the proposed innovation and then how it's going to address the issue. And again, this is a good example of doing that. This is why, again, we include this within the actual blackboard on the assessment tab, because it's a simple and yet effective way of highlighting the different stages. Again, pre-innovation and then post-innovation, and the impact it's going to actually have. And again, look at the pictures; they're just simple sort of pictures, And again, if you can get those and post those up on a, you can get these from anywhere and just post them up until you post it, then that's fine. And again, the use of the thought bubbles with some comments is actually ideal as well. So it's good. So that's basically the last slide. Go into the last one. So. Again, please know if you have any further questions prior to submission, post it in the forums. Thanks for attending and good luck. And don't forget to relax once you're complete. So again, I'll open it up. If you've got any questions, let me know. I'm going to hand over the microphone if you want to go into more detail, or you want to go back to any of the slides. We can do that as well if you want more discussion. I see a couple of people typing, so look, I'll just wait for that to go in. Okay, Bart, that's good. And again, what I keep saying, post the questions on the discussion board. You might sort of listen to this and might listen to the recording, or you might listen to one of the other recordings and you're not too sure. Post it up on the discussion board so we can help. I mean, that's the role of our ELAs. We're not here to get in the way of your progress. We're actually here to support you, so that's the important part with our role. Yeah, Jessica, that's the key to it. I mean, again, keep in mind what I said earlier. Imagine, look, I often use this analogy. Imagine the 3 or 4 of you stand in front of a whiteboard in an office. And, this is, I only use this because I've done this myself. You identify the issue by writing up what the departments are, what the people are, whatever, and then you get the rubber out and you sort of say, no, that's not right. You put an arrow somewhere and that's not right, or you have a word on the arrow to sort of say this is the transaction to do with the donation that's been made, for argument's sake. So you might sort of think, no, that's not the issue. You cross it out. So you constantly, you've got 3 or 4 people brainstorming. And again, what I said at the start, it's like a high-level brainstorming exercise by putting the pictures up, identifying what the issues are, and then saying, okay, we've identified what the problem is. Now, how are we going to fix it? So again, you put in, grab a different colour, marker, and draw new arrows and new processes about the actual issue and how you're going to address it. And that's simply what the rich picture is. And again, it's the first stage of the analysis. And then when you go into the second part, which is the business report, and again, while this is an academic sort of process, this is exactly what I've done, many a time in industry. But as a consultant, you prepare the business report and the actual business plan to actually implement what you're suggesting. That has the budgets and all the costings and the risk-benefit analysis and all the practical implications, timelines, etc. Again, so that's how it's used. So again, all the rich picture is you're just converting that into an A3 size poster, basically. So Tundi, aren't you in a team? But what's happened with that? Hopefully you've... Who's your ELA? Because I know they're looking at right now about trying to, in the next day or so, anybody's not in the team, they're going to try and line people up. Yeah, that's good. Thanks, Jessica. Look, all the best. Again, any questions, throw them up on the discussion board. Okay, Bart, look, thanks for attending.